was supposed to be, or working like it was supposed to be working, we wouldn't be having these staggering numbers. We would have been able to slow things down. Certainly we've slowed things down in North America, but I think that we could do a lot more. And of course, where does that start? I think it starts with acting up, and starts with improvised programming, such as doing a YouTube channel with a bunch of information and a guy talking a lot about HIV. You gotta start somewhere, you know. The United Nations said in its report released in July 2008, and again, this is July 2008, the AIDS epidemic had stabilized. So if the AIDS epidemic stabilized, then we're going to accept, well, it's stable at 2,500 people getting infected a year, and oh yeah, with, you know, what would they say, 54,000 new infections in 2007 in North America. But that's stabilized. You know, we're stable. We got it all under control. We got 2,500 new Canadians every year being testing positive with HIV. We got 821 children with HIV. Okay, these are issues. This is each year. Okay, so I don't see where that's stabilized. So the United Nations, I suggest you do a little more homework on what you consider stabilized, or explain to some of us activists what exactly stabilized is. Because to me, stabilized would tell me you have the epidemic under control, and instead of changing it to a pandemic and scaring the shit out of everybody and telling the truth, you would rather continue to stay the status quo of an epidemic and lack of services and lack of funding in relation to those services. Instead, you seek the big money and the big pharma and the drugs. And as a parent, that has me concerned. Improvements in treatment have been significant. The report said that about 3 million patients taking medications as compared to 300,000 in 2003. So who cares? Big pharma, lots of medications, okay? All kinds of drugs. That's good. It's a good thing that we have drugs available. It's a bad thing when we allow big pharma to override ethics and services that are necessary for parents and parental. The most important thing that I want to close this segment out on, even though it is about parenting and it is about HIV/AIDS, to that respect, the action of acting up is a collective action of a diverse group, of which we are. The common ground, as I've said many times, is the fact that our blood is red, and that's what HIV attacks. And how it attacks us, we're human. So the rest of it's elementary, and our diverseness is actually our strength, not our weakness. Coming from such a diverse communities, we have a lot of range. The question is, can we consolidate all these skill sets to the most optimal performance for everybody? Is this something that we can do? Is this something that we as a collective can try and start to do? This is improvised, this is new. The Federal Initiative on HIV/AIDS calls for the implementation of PHAs or PWAs, depending on which coast you live on in Canada, to be implemented wherever possible. This is basically like a ghost here in Victoria, and generally in BC. There should be a lot more people, I believe, that have skill sets with HIV/AIDS that can be actively out and engaged, and not necessarily working full-time, but out volunteering, or out getting trained, out learning how to live with this virus, learning how to be a parent, for instance, in my case. Maybe I could be out teaching others for after having 8 years experience as a dad about what it might be to go through. I could be out offering services to help people. That's what this is about. Collective peer action and collective peer empowerment, the fundamentals of our history, the fundamentals of ACT UP, the fundamentals of everything that we've done was based on those values. We empower each other to act. Only we've stopped acting, and we've stopped empowering. And I'm not quite sure how that's happened or why that's happened, but I'm hoping to get to that place new again. So when I see about improvised, new programming, what does that mean? Well, improvised to me means what I'm doing now. This is improvised. I throw a plot plan in front here for props. I get in front of YouTube and I start running my mouth. And I talk and I talk and I talk. And people either like me or dislike me, but I talk about the truth. I talk about the facts and how I feel. And this channel is going to bring on new guests and bring on different people, and they'll be able to speak about their experiences, some more emotional than others. Myself, I can become very emotional. This disease has taken my friends, it's taken my friends' families, it's taken my friends' kids. I've seen my share of death for a young age, considering I was diagnosed when I was 21 years of age. And sometimes that's where people underestimate my age set. And as a father of an 8-year-old, and I'm turning whatever 35 or 36 this year, it's troublesome. It's something where I'm happy to be a young dad because it looks like I might have a chance to go further, but I spend a lot of my time really trying to educate the masses and going out there and trying to go full forward and being met with resistance and barriers, not only in relation to cannabis activism, but most importantly in relation to human rights, social justice, compassion, human nature, the fundamentals of humanity. What's happened to it? It's a question for us to decide and for us to look at each other. Because for me, I'm not hiding behind any usernames. My name's Jason Wilcox. It's on the name. I don't hide behind anything anymore. I'd rather be as transparent as possible. At least this way I can hold my head up and say, yeah, at least I know who I am. I'm tired of living in closets and behind shadows, and I don't think anybody living with HIV/AIDS should have to. I'm not saying we should have a march down the street saying that we're all positive, other than for fundraising. But at the same time, I believe that we should allow the world to know that this virus is still here. 30 million people in the world are infected. This is a serious issue, and for them to cite stabilization, stabilization for me is a serious number when 28 or 22.8 million have already died of the disease. Okay, 22.8 million. Now I understand that you need to eradicate a certain number of people in the world for us to live for another 50 years, whatever. That is an issue for politics, but this is an issue of healthcare and an issue of ethics. And with 22.8 million people dying and 60 million people being infected, and this is an estimate, 60 million people being infected at the end of 2001, we can only estimate that it would probably be 60, 70, 80, probably 90 million people infected right now and growing. So we are far from stable. And as a father, it would be concerning for me to not these issues, to not address the fact that CIHR, who funds the federal initiative to fight HIV/AIDS here in Canada, only issued $15 million. What's ironic is that $11.3 million of that money went to research. I argue that Big Pharma, you got lots of money from us. You got lots of money from what you do. Why don't you do your own research and give the money back to us for services? I remember in the 90s, Big Pharma, you guys had all kinds of stuff for us. You had all kinds of programming and funding because we took your pills. But now that it's mandatory to take our pills to stay alive, it seems like all that little extra support's kind of gone. I'd like to argue that you bring it back. Okay, there's a place here called Camp Moomba. That's the only place for kids. It's a place for HIV positive kids to go and hang out, or kids affected. Infected or affected, there is no difference. We need to draw the line in the sand about that too. Because whether you're a partner of somebody who's HIV positive and you have to live with their death, you have to go through it, you have to experience it, it's traumatic. To try and understand it, to comprehend it, to read the blood tests, to deal with the doctors, to deal with the emotional roller coaster some of the treatments put you on, let alone just having the illness does. Not to mention the wackiness that you see in some of the, some of the stuff that you see.